Mercedes F1 insane upgrade for Japan Grand Prix. As you all know, the Singapore Grand Prix just finished and Mercedes were not happy with the result. So in today's video, we're going to be going through Mercedes insane upgrade and 3 other stories preparing for the Japan Grand Prix. But let's get into the first story and talking about the insane upgrade. So as you all know, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell finished 9th and 14th respectively in the Singapore Grand Prix, and they were not happy with the result, especially Toto Wolff. Now there were a lot of problems when it came to the rain and also a wet course, so that may have played an issue. However, we still saw Red Bull's Sergio Perez actually top out and win the Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz finished 2nd and 3rd. Lewis Hamilton actually started 3rd on the grid but ended up dropping all the way to 9th place, which he was not happy about. And Lewis Hamilton made it very clear to Andrew Chauvelin and the rest of the team that he is expecting huge upgrades for the Japan Grand Prix. And Andrew Chauvelin actually had this to say in an interview. He mentioned that the high-speed track remains one of the ultimate driving challenges in the Japan Grand Prix. The 2 commitment rewarding dangers and the white knuckle ride of the 130R, all highlights in a series of highlights at what is one of F1's seminal tracks. And hey, it's got a crossover. How cool is that? So he did mention a lot of things, but when it came to this, he mentioned about the different upgrades or updates he is bringing to the car, especially to this W13, to help Lewis Hamilton get his first win and also help George Russell get into podium position. He said that they are looking to change the floors a little bit to really suit the Japan Grand Prix and also change the downforce significantly. Now the reason why I think this will play significantly for the Japan Grand Prix is that during the course in Sector 1 there are a lot of twists and turns, and that could be a chance for Lewis Hamilton and also George Russell to take advantage and to be quick in that sector. And I think it is really important to state that when it comes to Mercedes and what they are doing, they are really experimenting with a lot of different things. I think that what makes them so great and being able to keep up with Ferrari and also Red Bull, even though they've had so much trouble so far this year. And I think these updates are definitely going to help them throughout this race and also throughout the circuit. Now, when it comes to other changes they are looking to make, Andrew Chauvelin actually said they are looking into other areas but haven't made a final decision yet. So it seems that the floors and also changing a bit of the downforce is going to be the main big upgrades they are bringing to the Japan Grand Prix, but they are going to be looking to change something else. Now, when it comes to my personal opinion, I think those 2 things are very vital when it comes to changing those. I can't really see any other problem with the car so far, and obviously guys, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know too much about that as well. But when it comes to what they are preparing for, I think the Japan Grand Prix is another place where Lewis Hamilton and also George Russell can definitely dominate. There are a little bit of straight sectors, however there are enough corners and turns in order for Lewis Hamilton and George Russell to take advantage and to be a better driver, especially against Ferrari and Red Bull. They had that opportunity at Singapore, however they did pass it up, but that's just how it goes. Now let's get into the second story, and the second story is actually Hamilton's contract extension. So Mercedes F1 boss Toto Wolff says a contract extension between his team and Lewis Hamilton is likely on its way, as a 7-time world champion feels he can hold his own on the grid for another 5 years. Hamilton's future in Formula 1 is regularly subject of speculation among pundits. A consensus emerged earlier this year, guessing that the Briton would conclude his career at Mercedes at the end of 2023 or the term of his current contract with the Brackley squad. Now the reason why I think this is so evident is because obviously Lewis Hamilton wants to win his 8th in order to overtake Schumacher. I think that's definitely on his list, and obviously with everything that is going on where Red Bull may be caught cheating, if he's actually titled the 8th championship due to the fact that Red Bull actually cheated in Abu Dhabi, if that is true and they actually strip away Red Bull's win, I think it would actually give Lewis Hamilton an opportunity to maybe consider retiring. But I would love to see Lewis Hamilton continue to race, and I think that's like with everyone else. So story number 3 is Wolff actually reflects on the tough lesson for Mercedes in Singapore. Wolff has left frustrated that Mercedes were unable to utilize the pace that the car had displayed during the weekend. He said, "This season has given us several tough lessons, and today was another one. We started from opposite ends of the grids with our 2 cars, but we couldn't capitalize on the car's race pace with either of them when it came to an end result. Lewis was fighting for the podium for much of the race, but also battling a car balance that was on a knife edge today, in difficult conditions and on a bumpy surface. After he locked up and damaged the wing, the stop to change tires and the nose cost him position. Then he lost out even more when cars ahead pitted under safety car and jumped ahead. That left him stuck in a train of cars on very similar age tires, and he couldn't make up any ground. For George, we rolled the dice on dry tires when he was running out at the points. In hindsight, it was clearly too early, but he had nothing to lose, so we were prepared to take the gamble. Even so, as the race unfolded, he was still on course to make it back to points until the collision with Mick, which put him last on the road. So, obviously, it was a wet road, and it did play a huge effect when it came to how the race happened. There were a lot of D and Fs due to the fact that the rain was that heavy, and a lot of also racers were trying to get on dries and especially, softs as quick as possible, even though it wasn't really able to do so. Now, Mercedes actually saw no solution, and that was actually their biggest problem. So Mercedes felt prior to the race weekend in Singapore that they could go for victory this weekend, but nothing was further from the truth. Lewis Hamilton finished in 9th place, while George Russell even finished outside the top 10. In Mercedes press release, Andrew Shovlin actually discussed the race. He said, "The fronts were getting a hard time in the traffic, which contributed to Lewis's lockup, and the timing of the front wing damage was unfortunate as we lost time with the change, but then lost further position as a safe car allowed others to pit without losing much time. Shovlin therefore wants to forget about Singapore race quickly. We're going to use the next few days to regroup and prepare for Suzuka, where hopefully we'll put in a better all-around performance." And like I mentioned before, guys, there is a lot to that when it comes to what they are going for in the future. Now, when it comes to Lewis Hamilton, he actually had this to say when it comes to whether he wants to keep racing or whether he wants to stop. "I don't know if 40 is that age where you say that is not adequate anymore for a racing driver. If you look at where Fernando is with 41 years, he's still very much there. Now, is he the same Fernando that he was at 25? I don't know, but he's very competitive still. You look at Tom Brady, who is somebody I really admire for having the discipline as he manages his life and his sport. He's 43 or 44 and he's on the pitch." Now, for a little bonus story, George Russell was left to rue his troublesome Singapore Grand Prix after declaring his Mercedes a car capable of winning. The Silver Arrows have struggled for pace all season other than high downforce layouts in Budapest and Zandvoort. Whilst the Marina Bay Street circuit played into the team's hands on paper, its record on bumpy street tracks has left a lot to be desired. Lewis Hamilton proved the W13's pace in qualifying on Saturday as he claimed third on the grid. A mechanical gremlin, however, left Russell only 11th before Mercedes triggered a pit lane start when changing the Britain's power unit. Russell struggled to make inroads into the field of intermediate tires and became an effective guinea pig for Mercedes when switching to slicks on a still damp surface. Contact the Mick Schumacher Haas added further woe to Russell's race, leaving him left wondering what might have been. "We definitely had a car at the weekend that was capable of winning, that is one thing ticked off. Let's say, just a bit of shame how this weekend has unfolded. We were very, very fast. Had it not been for the incident with Mack, then he would have finished inside the top 10 definitely. Not too sure what happened there. It is the way F1 goes sometimes. We've had such a good run of form, and as a team we have been pretty flawless all season, but obviously this weekend went against us. When Russell pitted for a set of medium tires under virtual safety car conditions, he was forced to control a rally-style power slide as he drove through the puddles on the inside of turn 3. Over the course of number of laps, Russell lost considerable time and at one stage was lapping 5 seconds per lap slower than Alex Albon, who was actually ahead of him. Addressing the strategy choice, he explained, "I was asking to pit for a new set of inters. In my situation, the team trust me and thought it was time to go in slicks and try something. Obviously, at the time, it was totally the wrong decision, but it did pay dividends later down the line because once we did have the safety car and the restart, I overtook 3 cars in one lap and was up to P11 before the incident with Mick. It goes both ways. We had to try something, but I think we showed we are making a lot of progress that gives me confidence for the rest of the year."